this is a picture of the eggs, which is what we're looking for this early in the season. Um, they have little stripies on them, which you can sort of little striations, which you can see if you like. You can like zoom in with your camera on your phone, or if you have a magnifying glass. Early in the season, it can be easy to confuse them with sap bubbles because milkweed has that sticky latexy sap and it will make a bubble. Those are a little more droplet shaped, often maybe a little yellower. Um, but the eggs are pointy on the end, and the droplets of sap are like a drop, they're rounded. So, the different stages of the caterpillars. You've got the egg, and then the egg hatches, and you have the very first instar, which looks really nothing like the rest of the monarch caterpillar stages. These are really small, like pinky nail size. Um, the first thing it does is it eats its little egg case, which you think, well, that's. I mean, how do people know that? But actually, a number of people sent us photos of that stage because they're really small. It takes them like a day to eat that. So lots of people got a picture of that happening. They do not have any of the tentacles, which sort of look like antennae, or any of the colorful stripes. They can be a little hard to spot because they, by design, blend in really well with the plant. But if you spot one, you're pretty confident of what it is. That second instar, now it has the stripes, and sort of looks like the example of a monarch butterfly, a drawing of a monarch butterfly. But it really just has a little bud for those tentacles, just barely coming out, and the back it's still almost invisible. The tentacle, it isn't sticking out from the head at all, and they can grow a lot in any of the stages. But two is one where they do seem to grow a lot. It's an exoskeleton, so there's a limit to how big it can get. Um, and they sort of literally split their skin and a new one is beneath it. And you will actually sometimes find the split skins next to them. Once you start looking every week, you start seeing all of these little details. But yeah, that they sort of come out of that second stage. They have the small tentacle, and they go into the third stage, where now they have tentacles really reaching forward to the face. And you see this little foreleg, the forwardmost leg, this moves progressively forward on its body. So that can be another indication of what stage you're looking at. The black banding gets more distinctive as they get bigger. And in the third instar, the back tentacle has started to come out. It's now really where it was in the second instar stage. And this exists as a handout on our website, I should add. So fourth instar, the tentacles are now reaching all the way past the face. And the tentacles tend to be a good identification because remember, this thing is like sitting on a leaf and you're trying to guess what stage it is. The banding on the front is distinctly darker. That foreleg has really moved forward and there's a white spot. And the back tentacles are now the length that they were, the front tentacles were in the third instar. They sort of move steadily forwards like that. And as it's gone from second instar, where it was probably eating holes in your milkweed leaf, somewhere around third or fourth, it started like just sawing off the leaf in strips. So you're losing huge chunks of leaf. And this is a properly large caterpillar now that's really probably doing some damage to your plants. And the fifth instar, by this point, you've been watching this caterpillar for a while. Very rarely does somebody suddenly become surprised by a fifth instar caterpillar, although that did happen to me once. The front tentacles are now twice as long as they were in the fourth instar, so they're really long. Especially if it's kind of afraid, they will curl up the tentacles. The black stripes are now really vivid and almost fuzzy. And that foreleg is really tucked up near the head. So there's a pretty distinctive. I don't know how much we've talked about, we ask people who start the project and then stop monitoring why. And I thought the reason that people would stop monitoring is because we're asking something every week. That's a hard commitment to make and to be consistent about. But a lot of people struggle in the project because you'll see a lot of eggs that don't become first instar caterpillars. You'll see a lot of first instar caterpillars that just disappear between one monitoring and the next. And as I said, they've become food for someone. You know, it's less than 10% probably eggs that make it into that 5th instar stage. So you're not probably going to have a ton of caterpillars that make it through all of the stages. They do get eaten. And one of the things that we're interested in is, do they get eaten more in some places than others? One of the things that we see is often the first year, the garden is not as successful as it will be later. So I'd encourage you, if you maybe did this last year and didn't have as much success as you wanted, or maybe you've looked and you haven't felt like you were seeing as many caterpillars as you'd like, as the years go on, things get better. And you're helping us learn about what are the traits of those really successful gardens. So with that, maybe sort of depressing thing, if you would like to turn on the annotation, so if you go up to, it either says more or view options probably, and then annotate, we have a little like caterpillar identification game here. So what instar stage do you think this caterpillar is? You can circle it, put a stamp on it. Yes, draw on it, yeah. So I'm seeing lots of 2nd instars. Yes, you were correct, because we have front tentacles, but not really back tentacles. We think that this sort of fuzziness is actually the that it split its that's its first instar exoskeleton that somebody managed to get a shot of, which is pretty cool. So I'm going to clear everything real quick and go to the next slide. We got a few of these. So let's guess this one. What stage do we think this caterpillar is? Same thing with the annotation. So a little split, but this is a 3rd instar caterpillar, and it can be tough to tell the difference. I've got it facing kind of the wrong way for you. So those longer tentacles are on the sort of further away part of the image, but I do not think those extend past the face. And this can be a thing where you're looking at this caterpillar trying to get it from all angles to identify these things. But I'm pretty sure this is a 3rd instar caterpillar. So I'm going to clear everything. And we got one more. I'm going to admit someone from the waiting room. And we're going to go there. Guess this one. Yeah. So this is a big, big 5th instar caterpillar. Super long tentacles on the front there. That's not what I need. That's what I need. Super long tentacles on the front. Doing that sort of 5th instar caterpillar thing where you're just eating the margin of a leaf and just sawing through leaves. So I'm going to clear all the drawings. I would recommend turning off annotation, or you'll end up annotating the slides as we go through. Identifying milkweed at this point in the season can be tricky, because all of the field guides typically show the beautiful, fully mature plant in bloom. And right now they all look tiny and scraggly and everything's kind of green. So we do have a guide that has photos like this of early season milkweed in our, on the resources on our page. This is another thing that can be great about coming to a plant distribution, because you get to see milkweed growing in the ground and get a plant that will give you, but you can see milkweed growing in the ground and have somebody say what each thing is. Your milkweed should be up. I have not heard of many folks that don't have milkweed up at this point. I have a pretty cold site, and I have milkweed from all of the common species are up at this point. So many of them have the distinctive milky sap. Not all of them, and not every plant is as good at producing the sap as others. Common milkweed can be distinguished from a lot of weeds because it is fuzzy, especially when it's newly growing. It can be kind of a fuzzy little plant. Swamp milkweed has pointy leaves come to a point, but they're not serrated on the edge, and it has a darker stem. Butterfly weed, also fuzzy, can be really velvety this early in the season. My leaves are still sticking straight up on my plant and will open up as hopefully it gets more warmer weather and less abuse from people walking by on the sidewalk. And world milkweed, it can be tricky at this point in the year because it's real delicate. It does have like a stem within the leaves coming off perpendicular to the stem, but it's a real delicate stem on this plant. So if you are like a little unsure, I encourage you to do that guide. You can do your site survey, and if you get one wrong and you need to change it, it means that maybe things will be wrong in that automated email, but you can make a change. So I would say don't shy away and not do the project because you aren't 100% sure, because usually we have several people in the year that go, you know what, actually it was different plant than I thought it was. And we love it when you get it right, but we can make that change. And these are the common ones. There are other species of milkweed that you may have or you may see for sale. The one we ask you to stay away from is tropical milkweed. That's a milkweed species from northern Mexico, which is really great when it's growing in northern Mexico. And then it's really confusing for monarchs when it's growing way outside of that region. And it can slow their migration. It blooms really late in the season. So if it's not killed off by a frost, I saw tropical milkweed blooming on election day last year when I went to vote. And it was a very cold, very wet day, and not a day when a monarch should still be in Chicago. So if you do have tropical milkweed, because it for a long time was the only milkweed that could easily be purchased from a plant grower, just cut it back in October or late September even. If you're going to purchase milkweed, I would encourage you, please purchase one of our native milkweeds. I had not seen tropical milkweed for sale in a nursery, but then recently one of our colleagues did.